What can a machine learn about the COVID-19 pandemic? Using only artist responses to the pandemic as datasets, we try to get a glimpse of how AI might understand the current crisis. It was taught on so much data that it can understand and comment on concepts it's never encountered before. So this is an experiment to observe the creative abilities of AI and its grasp of what it means to experience a pandemic. The following graphic works and textual outputs were generated by combined machine learning technologies, which we collectively refer to as Lara, our main collaborator. The comments and video documentation are by Cantavisions. Lara's interpretations echo the present anxieties and responses with an uncanny accuracy. Her comments reveal a lucid perspective of the actual conjuncture. 12.
These responses are not about the pandemic itself, but rather about what happens when the pandemic becomes part of our reality.
31.
In the age of anxiety and uncertainty, people are looking for a way to escape.
47.
The pandemic has forced us to be more aware of our own mortality, as well as the mortality of those around us. It has also made us value the things that are close to us.
Some outputs had a lyrical and poetic tone to them, despite the prompt largely staying the same. 35.
What is certain is that the pandemic is visible on the human body and on the body of the landscape. It is visible in convolutions, symptoms, and mutations. It is visible in stillness, silence, and darkness. It is a moment of complete isolation. This is what travels in the stillness of the night.
9.
A meditation on the experience of living in a space where the virtual and the real merge. It is an attempt to understand how one can exist in such a space, and how this affects one's sense of self and community. How does this experience change one's perception of reality? How does it affect one's relationship with time? One's relationship with nature? This is not a genre of the past, but a genre that is part of our present, where the everyday and the conceptual are constantly shifting positions and having new impacts on each other.
Other times, Lara missed the mark. Yet these outputs serve as a reminder that the AI is still learning what the COVID-19 pandemic is from the artist's responses, making the other insights even more impressive. Whereas it does occasionally offer up non-factual content, the general concepts are still largely accurate. 7.
This pandemic was caused by a viral infection, which resulted in a change in the human DNA structure. This disease is caused by the long-term use of the internet and social networks. The virus has made people more isolated from their surroundings, yet at the same time more connected to them.
24.
The COVID-19 pandemic is said to be a public health emergency that affects all areas of life. COVID-19 causes severe sleep disturbances, sometimes leading to coma or even death. The pandemic has also been linked to the current opioid epidemic in North America.
While we often asked Lara to summarize the data she was given, she would sometimes offer a whole new series of works and ideas on her own accord. Creativity was once seen as something innately human. Reading these outputs perhaps encourages a reconsideration of this. 3.
An urban nature documentary set in the future after COVID-19 has spread across the globe.
19.
An installation, a journey through loss and loneliness that evokes a feeling of helplessness and the fear of the unknown. The viewer is made to experience the feeling of an inexplicable longing and an inability to connect with others. Screens create an image of the virtual world, but also provide the psychological space for the viewer to be alone with their thoughts.
68.
The main character of this story is an empty, abandoned city that is slowly being taken over by nature.
Sometimes the outputs were even reflecting on the AI's own role of sifting through and learning from the works. 46.
A female scientist decides to leave the laboratory and discover how the pandemic affects people in their everyday lives. As an artist researcher, she uses the internet as a research tool for understanding and observing the phenomenon of the pandemic. She travels to different parts of the world to observe and record the social and cultural effects.
62.
A quest through materials from several long winters spent in this unknown land that has no name or proper geographic description.
Occasionally the outputs were dystopian sci-fi visions that also hit scarily close to home. 32.
You live in a small room. You can hear the sounds of the city, but they are distant. You know that there are people around you, but you don't see them. You have an internet connection and a computer. You are isolated from everything else, so it doesn't matter what else is there. There is no door or window in your room, but you know that outside there are other rooms just like yours. You also know that there are other people living in those rooms, and they too have computers connected to the internet just like yours. Your only contact with them is through messages on your computer screen. The computer monitors everything that happens inside your head and stores it for later analysis by other people who live in the same building as you. They do this because they want to find out how people think so that they can predict what will happen next. You never see the people who are spying on you, but you know that they are there. This is the world you live in,